I'm waiting for my friend Bill to arrive. Bill's a motion picture editor. He worked on films like Good Morning Vietnam and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, tons of films for DreamWorks, SpongeBob SquarePants, the movies. He's worked on tons of really cool films, but he also collects electric cars. And I think we're going to go for a ride in something new today. I don't know, but I think that's the case. That's not him. So we'll see. We'll see what he's got. That's what I'm waiting for. He'll be here. Bill's very reliable. That's not Bill either. So we have wild parrots all over the place. They're big, beautiful green things. If I had a long enough telephoto lens, I'd show you. They're really amazing. I'm kind of bummed because my Y connector is a little bit dicey, so I can only use my shotgun mic. Normally I'd have a second mic so that you could hear me. I'll just have to speak up. I thought that might be Bill there, but it's not. I don't even know which direction he's going to come from. He'd come either way. It'd be equidistant. It's nice out today, but I'm hungry. I wonder if parrots eat butterflies. We have so many butterflies right now. They're just everywhere. Barkley got a haircut. It's really short. I'll show it to you. Hang on. I have absolutely no idea why people give dogs haircuts. Say hi, Barkley. Hi, Barkley. Parrots aren't indigenous to Los Angeles. I have no idea why we have them, but we have them and we got a lot of them. Parrots in Los Angeles, they're saying, hey, how about those Dodgers? Why'd they get rid of Puig? Bill's not late, by the way. He's got plenty of time. It's me, I'm just excited. Bill's never late. You don't have to wait with me.
Well,
welcome to the future.
Oh my word, look at that. You're George Jetson.
Meet George Jetson.
You gonna get some food?
I'm starving.
Are you hungry?
Let's go let the car drive itself somewhere.
Fantastic, let's do it. Bill, what'd you get?
I got my dream car, Tesla Model X 90D.
Are you loving it?
It's my favorite car ever, and my third electric car, from which there is no return.
Yeah. Just because you get used to that torque?
The power band is one thing. That's sort of an obvious thing. The economy of the fuel is an obvious other thing. There's several obvious things, like the quiet and the smoothness.
Why did we just beep? What just happened?
We beeped because Barry insists that I leave the warning signals on for the proximity sensors, and one of those things is if you're closing in on a stopped object, it's beeping to tell you it's going to put on the brakes for you soon if you don't.
If you don't.
And I've got that set on the most sensitive thing because Mary's still learning to drive the car. She actually hasn't driven it yet, but she keeps threatening, okay, this weekend we're going to teach me how to drive the car.
Can it collide with another car? Is it possible? Or will it just actually stop?
You might be able to fight it to a collision. So this is no fun for auto driving, except you do get to see how great it works in a traffic jam.
You might have a car that can do 240 miles an hour, but it doesn't matter in Los Angeles because you're never doing more than 15.
Pretty rare.
What's your favorite movie that you ever worked on?
I guess Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
How many years have you been at it?
35.
When you started, were you on a moviola?
Moviola and a 8-plate chem.
Oh, you started on there were chems when you started.
There were chems. Mostly we
Were
used...
they common?
Very common. Sure. You know, late 70s. Very common.
Right.
So it was a longer process, but I guess we weren't so much worried about how, you know, those type of time differences, because mostly we were thinking about where to make the edit right, because we were physically cutting film and having to scotch tape it together, and the more you did that, the worse it looked for the editor.
Sure.
Because you could tell every time what place you tried and put back together was, because there was tape there and it would bump through the gate and you tried it there, oh, you tried it there, and then finally you get to where the cut was and like, oh, I guess that's where you should have cut it the first time. But you know, there were these telltales that editors didn't like showing, So we thought about where the edits were much more than they do now, where
Now you just try everything.
you try to try everything, or you can rough it in and then adjust it.
But it took about the same amount of time to edit a film.
Well, it turns out that what takes the time is after you make cuts, deciding if you like them or not, or deciding if there's a better way to do it, and that always took the same amount of time. Even once it's flowing right, now you decide, well, is it accomplishing what we needed to accomplish story-wise and timing-wise and aesthetically and all that kind of stuff. And so it turns out there's stuff that computer editing doesn't speed up on, doesn't help you with, but mostly it helps you create a temporary version of your movie that is not full of things that distract the executive branch with, because it's become all about making the executive branch happy. They don't trust their decisions about who they hire anymore like they used to. They used to know if you hired Alfred Hitchcock, you're going to get an Alfred Hitchcock movie, and you really weren't going to have too much to say about its content. That was part of the deal.
Right.
And, Hitchcock wouldn't have made movies in today's environment with people breathing down his neck and trying.
Or would he have made completely independent movies?
Yeah, he would. He
got
would
distribution for.
He would have been Jim Jarmusch, and maybe only as famous as Jim Jarmusch, because big distributors would have been reticent because you didn't get to give any input, any marketing input, any input. You just, here's your movie, like it or not. And all of Alfred Hitchcock's movies were not hits. There's some that unfold painfully slowly, but that each one of those painfully slow moments is delicious, and you hope it doesn't end. It's
right.
like,
You don't want them to rush it.
I always leave stuff long, like too long, because I know they're going to trim it up.
You're always going to trim it.
And mess up my timing that I want. And so the strategy for me has become, put it into the cut that is going to lead them to give me the notes that will eventually lead to the cut I really want. And that was an art some mentors of mine taught me in live action, but I've really made use of in animation in order to get moments held on as long as they need to be, despite their jitteriness about doing that, because they're worried it's going slow, or we're not going to have enough minutes of animation to accomplish everything we really need to do to stand on this moment for an extra half second. And always at the end of the process, when it's too late to change it back, the director inevitably looks at the editor and says, I liked it longer the way you had it. And then you're like, oh, good. On the next movie, maybe you'll listen to me, but that. Should we go see if the sandwiches are there?
Yeah, let's go.
The question you must get asked 5 times a week is, how do I get started being a big Tammy Hollywood picture editor?
You have to be a lucky person. But the main thing I tell people, and what seems to have been giving people success, and I guess I've been the instrument in some cases of inviting people into the cutting room who I saw take an interest, and I had the opportunity to invite them in. You sort of have to get yourself in proximity of somebody in editorial somehow, or somebody who's connected to people in editorial somehow, either by getting involved in an intern program, or the last kid that I helped get in, I told him, go. First of all, he was in Dallas, and his question was, do I need to go to Los Angeles to pursue this? And my answer was, well, yes, you do. Is okay, so I go, then what do I do once I get there? And I said, well, you call whoever you do know, and you go knock on doors at mailrooms, at studios. And he got a page job at Paramount right away, because he was, educated. He's not only a college graduate, but had an MBA.
But that'll move him into being a producer. That one doesn't move him necessarily into being an editor.
Yeah, well, here's the thing with this guy. His initial thought was, I want to be development. I want to be, get into that end of things. He said, but then he had noticed while he was in college working on various projects that turned out to be video projects, he found he really enjoyed editing. And I said, well, it's still a good place to start, because you're going to get around the studio. You're going to be delivering stuff to editorial departments, and that's where you can introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm interested, when you guys need an apprentice or an intern, ask for me. And quite often kids, interns get assigned to editorial that way, so they get to look, and I definitely knew kids at DreamWorks who got into the intern program there, which I guess is very competitive to get into that intern program, but kids who took an interest in editorial got snapped up, got hired to be an editorial coordinator, and then if they showed the interest in the cutting room and learned the stuff kind of on their own in their spare time, in a couple of cases, they sent them off to vendors to get their 30 days and get them in the union and then hired them back.
It is amazing how many people had their careers made because they knew the right technology at the right moment. They had looked into the Avid before everyone else, or in the early versions.
I think it's a big plus as far as obviously getting in on the cutting edge groups that will be testing out the new technology first. If you are up on that stuff, obviously you've got a leg up, and if they do something with that new technology that's special, you'll get associated with it. But once again, there's a lot of luck involved. There's a lot of timing involved. It's maybe almost all about timing, but you got to put yourself in the position for the timing to hit, and you got to be in Los Angeles. You got to go around and try and get a job at a vendor or someplace that's going to expose you to the people who you really want to meet. And short of knowing somebody that can just take you to lunch with somebody and start showing you to people and seeing if your personalities match, that kind of has to work too. So there's a lot of variables, but mostly you just got to put yourself in the area. So the other thing about how long it takes to edit anything, not just a movie, anything, a commercial, a promo, whole movies. How long it takes is exactly how long the people paying for it give you.
Of course.
And if you are doing your own home movies, it's how long can I stand doing this? And I would wager that 95% of people who endeavor to actually edit their home movies consistently or take a big block of it from years and years and say, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to make this into something, get a couple of hours into the process and abandon it. The answer to how long it takes to edit something is how long they give you, or how long you give yourself. But mostly, you got a deadline in television, but even on a feature, there's a point where they're just going to start saying, okay, we're done, we can't pay anymore. And that's when you wrap it up, no matter what stage you're at. Look at the butterflies, there's a cloud of them.
So many butterflies.
Well,
Great seeing you, dude.
amazing seeing you. Such a fun afternoon.
Thanks for lunch and taking a ride in the Space Mobile.
Absolutely. Let's do it again soon.
All right. So check this out. When I approach the car, it kind of knows I'm here, and if I round the corner, the door opens, but it waits for me to get past it, and then it opens it the rest of the way.
Because God forbid you should open your own
You don't want to
door.
put any fingerprints on it,
No, you wouldn't want to touch that.
And you don't have to put it on the inside either, because you just kind of touch the brake pedal when you get in, and it closes.
That's awesome.
All right.
Good to see you.
See you soon.
All right.